And so how do we address some of these possible consequences on the Pell program if we choose to extend the Pell Grant to these programs?
So I would say, I think, in terms of being able to regulate and around the quality of these programs and ensure that the shorter term programs are high quality and that we only get the ones that lead to good earnings and stable employment, it's going to be very difficult to do that, actually, given the structure of the Pell Grant program and how it works and how it works as a voucher program that pays institutions when they enroll students. It's very difficult then to make the programs that students enroll in, to hold institutions accountable for what happens to those students when they complete those programs. That's just not how the money works. And with everything, you have to follow what institutions get paid to do. When it comes to the Pell Grant program, they get paid when they enroll students, not
Mhm.
when they graduate them, not when those students get a job. So there are some real structural problems with trying to get some accountability for these very short-term programs. And they're especially important because with degree programs, what we've learned from, again, decades of research is that while students will often have, some they'll graduate and they might have a little bit of trouble sort of finding their footing in the labor market. Over time, they generally find their way. And if they've got a college degree, they generally will get onto a stable path. With these very short-term programs, that's just not the case, right? As I already said, we have a lot of volatility, a lot of variability in the quality of the programs. These are truly job training programs.
Mhm.
So when you're designing a high quality job training system, it has to be a system that is focused on whether or not people get good jobs. And our Pell Grant program was not designed as a job training program. So it doesn't do a very good job at holding institutions accountable for whether or not students get jobs. So in
Interesting.
terms of what we can do, I mean, there are a few things, and these are things that are being talked about on the Hill. I think of an important one is to limit what kinds of institutions can gain access to these Pell Grants. Can have for which this expansion of eligibility applies. There's a long history of fraud and abuse in the for-profit sector.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something that just simply can't be ignored in this case. In fact, my colleague, again, Wesley Wissel of New America, wrote a great paper that traces the legislative history of expanding federal student aid programs to very short-term training programs. And what he finds over and over again is that with each expansion, there's an increase in the number of programs that are offered, the short-term programs, and in the incidences of fraud and abuse. So it's a tough thing. We saw what happened with the gainful employment rule. The industry, the associations of colleges and universities fought it very hard. They did not like the gainful employment rule, and ultimately it did not withstand the kind of legal challenges that were put up against it. Whether or not that can be effective as a tool for even shorter term programs, just I think is hard to imagine.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you for that.
can I just
No,
take a
no,
break there?
that was a brilliant, yeah, brilliant explanation.